She said it like it was a reasonable favor. Can we pretend we broke up for a week, just so I can see Mark and get closure? I looked up from my plate, nodded once, and said, okay. Hey friends, please like this video and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you, it's all thanks to you. The air in our condo in Raleigh didn't change after that. The ceiling fan still clicked on the third speed. The kitchen still smelled like lemon dish soap and whatever I'd cooked last. The little digital clock on the microwave still glowed 8:17 in that stubborn blue. If someone had walked in, they would have thought we were fine. We were. I'm 31, I work as an accountant for a regional manufacturing company. It's not glamorous, but it is steady, and steady has always been my style. I pay bills early. I keep receipts. I read contracts before I sign them. I keep a folder on my desktop labeled important and another one labeled more important. I met Jenna at a friend's cookout 3 summers ago. She wore a yellow sundress and laughed with her whole face. She talked about wanting a calm life, a simple house one day, a dog, dinner at a real table, not over a sink. That kind of talk lands on me like a warm blanket. We moved in together after a year, not into some half-furnished rental with mystery stains and a landlord who never answers, but into my condo. I bought it before I met her. 2 bedrooms, a small balcony that catches the late afternoon sun, a little storage closet where I keep my tax files and the extra air filters. She decorated it. Pillows, candles, framed photos from the state fair. She made it softer, and I appreciated that. I even started saving for a ring. I'm not the kind of guy who hides it under the mattress or makes a big secret out of it. I had a separate savings account labeled Ring Fund. I'd been putting money into it every payday, slow and steady, like I do everything. I had a screenshot of the exact solitaire she pointed at once when we passed a jewelry store in Crabtree Valley Mall. Not huge, she'd said, like she was trying not to sound greedy. Just classic. I believed her. I believed us. The first sign that I shouldn't have was small, almost silly. It was a word. Safe. It didn't used to bother me. Safe is good. Safe is what you want in a car and a neighborhood and a retirement plan. Safe is what my mother used to whisper when she locked the front door at night. But one Tuesday evening, Safe showed up between us like a third person sitting at the table. We were having dinner at home. I'd made garlic chicken with roasted broccoli because it's easy and she usually likes it. Jenna sat across from me at the little dining table we'd assembled together when she moved in. She pushed broccoli around her plate like she was moving pieces on a board, not eating. She didn't look at me when she spoke. Mark is coming to town, she said. I kept my fork in my hand. Mark. My ex, she said, like there was only one ex on earth and I should know which one she meant. I waited. I've learned in my job that silence makes people fill it. She sighed hard. He'll be here for a week. He has a conference in Cary. I nodded once, okay. Her shoulders loosened like she expected me to react bigger. I think I need closure, she said, and it would be easier if we just pretended we broke up, like officially, for that week. I blinked, pretended. Just for a week, she said quickly, so it's not weird, so I can see if there's still something there. The word safe landed right after that. She finally looked up, and her eyes had that practiced softness people use when they're asking for something unreasonable. You're safe, she said. You'll understand. You always understand. Safe. Like I was a couch you sit on while you decide where else you want to be. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't stand up. I didn't demand her phone. I didn't throw my fork. I didn't do any of the things that make a story sound exciting but make a life messy. I just set my fork down, wiped my mouth, and said, okay. Her relief came fast and sloppy. She reached across the table and touched my hand like that sealed it. Thank you, she said. It's just, I need to know. I looked at her hand on mine. Her nails were painted a pale pink I'd paid for last weekend. I nodded once more. Inside, something clicked. Not anger, not heartbreak in the dramatic way, more like a switch being flipped from relationship to logistics. That night, I didn't sleep much. I lay on my back and stared at the ceiling fan shadows on the bedroom ceiling. Jenna breathed beside me, already peaceful, like she'd handed me a problem and watched it disappear. Around 2:40 a.m., I got up quietly and walked into the second bedroom, the one we used as a home office. My laptop was on the desk. I opened it and logged in. The glow of the screen made the room feel colder. I pulled up our shared expenses spreadsheet. the same one I'd made when she moved in, so everything was clear. Mortgage was mine, HOA was mine, utilities, internet, streaming services, groceries, and our joint fun account were split, mostly, although if I'm honest, I covered more than I logged because I didn't want to turn love into invoices. That changed at 2:42 a.m. I didn't do anything dramatic. I didn't cancel the internet. I didn't shut off the power. That would hurt me too, and I'm not interested in chaos. I removed autopay from the utilities and subscriptions I was funding. The electric account, the water, the internet, the 2 streaming services she needed, for her shows, the meal kit subscription she'd signed up for and forgotten about. I made sure everything would still be paid through the end of the current billing cycle, and then it would require manual payment. Then I saved a PDF of the settings pages that showed autopay removed and dates, not because I wanted to get her, but because I like records. Records keep arguments short. The next morning, Jenna was cheerful in a way that made my stomach feel tight. She made coffee, humming, wearing my oversized hoodie. She kissed my cheek and said, "You're the best." I just said, "I have work." At the office, my coworker Paul glanced at me in the break room. Paul is the kind of man who's been married 30 years and still calls his wife my bride. He's steady. He notices things. "You all right?" he asked, stirring powdered creamer like it was a chore. "I'm fine," I said. He studied me for half a second and nodded. "You look calm." "I am," I said, and I meant it. On day 2, I gathered what mattered. Not furniture, not pans, not petty stuff. The things you don't want missing when emotions get loud. My passport, my birth certificate, social security card, the folder with the condo closing documents, my external hard drive with years of tax returns and personal files, the watch my grandfather gave me, a small envelope with cash I keep for emergencies, a spare set of car keys. I packed them into a plain backpack and put it in my trunk under a blanket. I didn't tell Jenna. There was no need. On day 3, she started acting like we were already in this pretend breakup. She sat on the couch with her phone angled away from me. She took longer showers. She wore perfume to go run errands. She used words like space and clarity and closure like they were coupons. That afternoon, I came home and found a printed receipt on the dining table. It was the kind of thing you don't notice unless you're looking. White paper, folded once, placed like trash someone forgot. I unfolded it because the table was mine and I was cleaning up my own space. It was a restaurant receipt, not from our neighborhood place, not from the taco spot we liked. It was from a nicer restaurant downtown, one Jenna had once said was too expensive for no reason. The date was that day. The time was 1:12 p.m. The total included 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, and a dessert. Under the tip line, the server had written, "Thank you, Mark." Mark. There were no names on receipts usually. This one had it like a little flourish. I didn't feel rage. I felt confirmation. I took a photo of it with my phone, making sure the date and time were clear. Then I put the receipt into a manila folder in my desk drawer labeled Home. When Jenna came in later, she kicked off her shoes and smiled like she'd done something brave. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I answered. She looked at the chicken I'd pulled out of the freezer to thaw. "You're making dinner." "I eat dinner," I said. She frowned slightly, like she wanted me to ask questions so she could have a speech ready. "Mark and I talked," she said. I nodded once, like I was listening to a weather report. She waited for more. When I didn't give it, she walked into the bedroom and shut the door. That night, I opened the Ring Fund account and stared at the number. It wasn't huge, but it represented months of effort and trust. I transferred the balance into my personal savings. I saved the transaction confirmation. Simple. On day 4, she said, "He wants to see my place." I looked up from my laptop. "This isn't your place." She blinked. "You know what I mean." "I do," I said, "and the answer is no." Her mouth opened, then closed. She did that thing where she tried to make her voice gentle, but it came out sharp. "You said okay." "I said okay to pretending we broke up," I said. "I didn't say okay to hosting your ex in my home." She stared at me like I'd changed the rules. "You're being different," she said. "I'm being clear," I said. She huffed and went to the bathroom, slamming the door just enough to make a point. That was the first time I sent a written message, and I kept it short, 2 sentences like I'd promised myself. Just to be clear, Mark is not allowed in my condo. If you need to meet him, do it somewhere else. I sent it as a text and took a screenshot of it, time-stamped. Not for court, for reality. On day 5, my friend Andre texted me. Andre and I go back to community college. He's the type who doesn't exaggerate. He works in it and talks like a man reading bullet points. Hey, his message said, just letting you know, I saw Jenna tagged on Instagram at the Rowan with Mark. She posted a story, thought you should know. I stared at the screen for a moment. The Rowan is a hotel downtown, not cheap, not casual. Thanks, I typed back. I appreciate it. That's messed up, he replied. You good? I'm good, I wrote, and I was, in that strange way where you stop guessing and start knowing. That evening, Jenna came home with her cheeks pink from cold air and wine. She carried herself like someone who'd had a day that felt like a movie. She tossed her purse onto the counter, then froze when she saw me sitting at the table with the manila folder open. What's that? She asked. A receipt, I said. Her eyes flicked down. She didn't look confused. She looked caught. That's nothing, she said quickly. It was just lunch. Okay, I said. She waited for the fight. It didn't come. Her voice rose anyway, like she needed to fill the space. You agreed to this, she said. You said we were pretending. I kept my tone even. You used the word safe. She blinked. What? You called me safe, I said, like a fallback plan, like something you keep while you test other options. She scoffed, but it didn't have much confidence. That's not what I meant. It's what you said, I replied. She stepped closer. Mark is just history, she insisted. I need to close that door. I nodded slowly, then close it. She crossed her arms. Why are you acting like this is permanent? I looked at her for a long moment. In that moment, I saw how she'd framed this in her head. She would take her little week, test the water, come back to the condo, crawl into my bed, and I would accept it because I was safe. I didn't hate her. I didn't even yell. I just stood up and said, I'm going to handle some things this week. Handle what? She asked, suspicious. Life, I said. On day 6, I scheduled movers, not a full house move, just enough to relocate what was mine in a clean, documented way. I booked them for the following Monday morning when Jenna would be at work. I paid the deposit on my credit card. I saved the receipt. On day 7, I secured a new place. I didn't need a fancy apartment. I needed a clean break. I found a one-bedroom in a quiet complex 20 minutes away. It had neutral carpet, plain white walls, and a manager who answered questions directly. I signed the lease. I paid the security deposit. I got keys. When I held those keys in my palm, they felt heavier than they should have, not because of the metal, because of what they meant. That night, Jenna came home with wet hair and a bright smile. I think I'm ready to talk, she said, like she was doing me a favor. I nodded once, okay. She sat on the couch and patted the cushion beside her. Come here. I didn't. Her smile tightened. Mark and I, it wasn't what I thought, she said. He's still the same. He's selfish. He's all talk. I realized I don't want that. I want us. I watched her carefully. Her eyes were shiny. Her voice was soft. The performance was polished. I choose you, she said, and she reached for my hand again. I pulled my hand back gently, like moving it away from a hot surface. No, I said. Her face twisted like she didn't understand the word. What do you mean, no? She asked. I mean no, I said. She sat up straighter. You're overreacting, she said. It was a week. You said okay. I did, I agreed, and then you showed me what okay means to you. Her voice cracked. It meant nothing, she insisted. It was closure. It was me being honest. I nodded once. Honesty would have been breaking up with me before you went to lunch with him. She stood up, suddenly angry. So you're going to punish me? I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm responding. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked around the condo like she expected the walls to support her argument. You can't just kick me out, she said. This is my home too. It's my condo, I said. I own it. Her eyes narrowed. So you're going to throw that in my face now? It's not a weapon, I said. It's a fact. Her breathing got faster. Where am I supposed to go? She demanded. That's something you should have thought about before you called me safe, I said, still calm. She stared at me like she wanted me to soften. When I didn't, she tried another angle. Her phone buzzed and she glanced at it. My mom says you're being controlling, she said, like that should change everything. I nodded. Your mom doesn't pay my mortgage. She made a strangled sound. You're unbelievable. I didn't argue. I went to the office and pulled out a printed sheet of paper I'd prepared earlier that day. It was a simple timeline, nothing dramatic. Dates, bills, accounts, the date I'd end my payments for shared expenses, the date she needed to remove her belongings, the reminder that she could schedule a time to pick up her things and I'd be present, calm, and reasonable. I placed it on the table. What is this? She asked, her voice suddenly smaller. Clarity, I said. She picked it up and scanned it, her eyes jumping around. You planned this, she whispered. I organized, I corrected. She looked up, tears forming. You didn't even fight for me. I kept my voice steady. I don't fight for someone who asks me to pretend we broke up so she can try again with her ex. She started crying then, real tears. She sank onto the couch, covering her face. I made a mistake, she said into her hands. I choose you, I'm here now. I watched her for a long moment, feeling something like sadness, but not enough to change my decision. I'm not your safe place, I said. I'm not your backup plan. Her head snapped up. I never said backup, she protested. You said safe, I replied. Same idea. Her phone buzzed again. This time she didn't look. She just shook her head like the world had turned against her. On Monday morning, the movers arrived at 9. 2 men with a dolly and clean work shirts. I'd already packed my boxes. They didn't touch Jenna's things. They didn't need to. Jenna was at work. I had told her by text, 2 sentences. Movers will be here Monday at 9 a.m. I'm moving my belongings only. I took a photo of each room after my things were removed, not because I expected a lawsuit, because I like a clean record. I left behind the bed frame because it was hers. I left the couch because she picked it. I left the pots and pans we bought together because I didn't want to argue over cookware. I took my documents, my hard drive, my clothes, my desk chair, and the photo of my grandparents that had been on the hallway shelf long before Jenna arrived. When the last box was loaded, I walked through the condo one more time. It looked oddly staged, like a model unit. The air smelled like cardboard and the lemon cleaner Jenna loved. I locked the door behind me and drove to my new place. It was quiet there, too quiet at first. The sound of my own footsteps felt loud. I set up an air mattress, a folding chair, and a lamp. I plugged in my phone charger. I sat down and listened to the hum of the refrigerator. It felt peaceful, not happy, yet, but peaceful. That evening, Jenna called. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again. Then she called on WhatsApp, then Instagram, then my email. I didn't respond immediately. I waited until I could write one message without emotion. 2 sentences. I've moved out and I'm ending all shared payments effective the end of this billing cycle. Please coordinate a time this week to collect your belongings, and after that, I will be blocking contact. I sent it. I took a screenshot. Then I blocked her on my phone and WhatsApp and Instagram, exactly like I said I would. The next day, her friend Kara texted me from an unknown number. Jenna is devastated, it read. You're really going to do this over 1 week. You're being cruel. I stared at it for a moment, then replied with one sentence. This is the result of Jenna's choices, not my mood. Then I blocked that number too. Jenna emailed me that afternoon, subject line, please. Her email was long, full of rationalizations. She said she felt trapped. She said modern relationships are complicated. She said she thought I loved her enough to understand. I read it once, then saved it as a PDF and put it in the same folder as the receipt. Not because I planned to fight her in court, but because my life has taught me that when people rewrite history, documents keep it from sticking. 3 days later, Jenna showed up at my condo. I wasn't there, I was at work. But my home security system was. That night I watched the video on my phone. No audio, just the clear image of her arriving with a suitcase, trying her key, realizing it didn't work, and then standing there in the hallway with her shoulders sagging. Then a few minutes later, Mark walked into frame. He put a hand on her back and guided her away. It was simple, quiet, and it told me everything. I sent one last message that same night because there was one legal detail that mattered. Your key no longer works because the locks were rekeyed on December 29, and you are not authorized to enter. Any remaining items will be available for pickup Saturday 11 a.m., 12 p.m. with me present. That was it. No insults, no sarcasm, just a boundary with a date and time. Saturday came. Jenna arrived with her mother. Her mother's face was tight with disapproval. Jenna's eyes were red, but she held herself like she wanted to look dignified. I opened the door and stepped aside. Her things were boxed and labeled in the entryway and the second bedroom. Clothes, shoes, bathroom items, the candles she loved, the picture frames with photos of us that I'd turned face down. Her mother started in immediately. I hope you know you're making a mistake, she said. I nodded politely. The boxes are ready. Jenna's lip trembled. Nick, she whispered, like we were still close enough for that nickname. I looked at her calms. We're done, in writing. She flinched like the words slapped her. I can fix this, she said softly. I'll go to counseling. I'll do anything. I kept my voice even. I'm not interested in rebuilding with someone who asked me to pretend we broke up so she could test another relationship. Her mother scoffed. People make mistakes. They do, I agreed, and then they live with the results. Jenna picked up a box and hugged it to her chest like it weighed more than cardboard. She looked around the condo, taking in the space like she was memorizing it. It was just a word, she said, almost pleading. Safe, I didn't mean it like that. I nodded once. Words matter. She swallowed hard. So that's it. That's it, I said. They carried the boxes out. I held the door open. I didn't help, not out of spite, but out of distance. Helping would have blurred the line, and the line needed to stay sharp. When they left, I locked the door and stood in the quiet entryway for a moment, listening to the building settle. No dramatic music, no shouting, just the soft click of the deadbolt. Months passed. My new apartment stopped feeling temporary. I bought a real bed, a small kitchen table, a couple of decent pans. I started sleeping through the night again. I stopped checking my phone for messages that weren't coming. At work, Paul told me one day, "You look lighter." I am, I said. Andre invited me out for coffee. We sat in a place that smelled like cinnamon and burned espresso. He didn't ask for details. He just said, I'm glad you didn't let yourself be somebody's safety net. That word again. Zayv. I don't hate Jenna. I don't wish her harm. I heard through mutual friends that things with Mark didn't turn into anything, that he left town and she tried to act like the whole week was a bad dream, that she had to move in with her mom for a while, that she told people I gave up too fast. People can tell whatever story they need to tell. I have mine, and I have the receipts. A few months after everything ended, I went on a date with a woman named Claire. Nothing dramatic, just dinner at a quiet place where the lights were warm and the conversation didn't feel like a negotiation. She asked what I wanted in life. I said peace, honesty, a partnership that doesn't require me to pretend. She nodded like that made sense. It was the first time in a long time I felt my shoulders drop without thinking about it. And that's the point of all this. The win isn't making someone regret you. The win is choosing a calm life and building it, one clear decision at a time. If you've ever been somebody's safe option, tell me in the comments how you handled it or what you wish you'd done differently. I read them all.